kind of wondering what the hell is actually happening. I don't think I'd ever be a cannibal, but that's just me. That's just me. I'm just gonna say now, you need to read this book. Reading from a perspective of a cat, I didn't think I would enjoy it so much. Hey besties, it's Joel, and this week I'm going to be reading some translated fiction. I asked a few of you over on Twitter and Instagram a few weeks ago to give me some of your recommendations for translated fiction, and you really came through with the recs. Like, I have interesting and amazing picks here, and I'm super excited to read them. And speaking of, if you've yet to check out my Twitter nor my Instagram, I would highly recommend you go check those out, because I post some extra content that you're not gonna see here. Okay, so I'm really also interested in reading translated fiction because it's one of my resolutions for the year to read more fiction that hasn't been published in the West, and so it's definitely a great way to highlight these and also encourage you to read more translated fiction, because it's definitely something that I think is undervalued on BookTube. Like, there are booktubers who talk about it, like Seiji from the Artisan Geek, amongst others, and I am just wanting to also diversify my reading and ensure that as someone who is also a literature student, I'm not leaving any bases uncovered. I have 6 books. I'm aiming to read roughly 5 books this week, but if I can sneak the 6th one in, because it's a really short one, I will do it, because I'm really interested in all of them. So, the first one is Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This cover design is simply amazing. Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro isn't actually translated fiction, and I didn't realize this until like later on in the video, so whilst I do point it out, I just wanted to point out now, just in case. So yeah, it's mostly translated fics this week, but yeah, we can go back into the video now. I'll be pointing out the cover artists once I go through each individual book, because they all deserve their own praise. The second one that we then have is The Mystery of Henri by David Fokinos. Then we have Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. This one I'm really intrigued by. The next one that we then have, which was basically the most requested translated book that I read, Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. I'm really intrigued. I am excited for this one. Then we have The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. This one was recommended because of my love for cats, and so again, intrigued. And there is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. And so we do have some really interesting picks this week, and I definitely think I'll try and listen to a few of them via audiobook as well, because I like the experience of listening through audio and physical at the same time. It just feels like someone's reading me a book. Speaking of audiobooks, I have a very quick message from the sponsor of today's video, Audible. Oh, hello there, I didn't even notice you. I was listening to my audiobook. Now, hello besties. Today I'm working with Audible, who I am sure you are massively aware of already as one of the leading providers of audiobooks across the interwebs. Audiobooks are such a valid form of reading, and through Audible it helps make audiobooks accessible to a wider audience. And I often listen to audiobooks whilst working out, cooking. On Audible there are thousands and thousands of titles for you to peruse and listen to, and I also heard there's over 3 centuries worth of audio on there, and it's safe to say that we're pretty covered. And with an Audible membership, you can download and listen offline anytime and anywhere. So if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're in a cabin in the woods, you're covered. Audible's got you. Each month, you'll receive a credit that is yours to trade for any of their titles in their premium selection, which is yours to keep forever in your library. You'll see that during this video, I listened to Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica whilst also listening to the audiobook, and it definitely enhanced my reading experience, and I found that I enjoyed the book a lot more whilst also listening to someone narrate it to me. And another recommendation I can give is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I found that the different narrators within the book also helped enhance the reading experience as well. It was actually the audiobook that got me back into reading as well, so you can kind of thank Audible for this BookTube channel, because without it I probably wouldn't have made it. And so if you'd like to try Audible out, new members can get a 30-day free trial if you visit audible.com/fictional fates or text fictional fates to 500. And again, a massive thank you to Audible for being today's sponsor, and now we can get back on with today's video. The first book that I'm going to be reading for this video is Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is actually my second Ishiguro novel. The first one was An Artist of the Floating World, which I read last winter for a class that I was tutoring, and so I'm really excited to be diving into my second one. This is the Waterstones exclusive edition with the sprayed edges and the end papers, and I just love the design so much. It's so minimalist but also really beautiful, and it was designed by Faber, which Literature, the publisher for this, and I tried to find like a name or anything, but there's nothing. So all I have is that it was designed by Faber, but if you do know who actually designed this, if you know the names of anyone who actually did design this cover, please let me know, because it's just stunning and minimalist and I love it. This basically follows Klara, who's like an artificial friend slash android, who's basically wanting someone to come and like purchase her at the shop. However, when her circumstances might change, Klara is warned not to trust the promises of humans. And so this definitely intrigues me because it reminds me a lot of Westworld, and so I'm really excited by it. I think that it's going to be such a great commentary on kind of what is artificial and what is real, and also how can you judge whether something is human or not, and also whether you can judge if something has a soul or not. And I think it'll call a lot of like philosophical things into question. I just think it's going to be a really like interesting read, and Ishiguro's last novel that I read did not disappoint, and so I'm really excited to be reading this one as well. And yeah, this week is going to be great, exploring some parts of the world, and yeah, I'm going to get to reading this and then I'll catch up with you with my thoughts once I've finished it. Hello and happy Tuesday. I have my Starbucks with me and I'm ready to discuss. First of all, I found out last night that Klara and the Sun actually isn't translated fiction, and I don't know where I got the idea that it was translated fiction from, but I apologise. It was a massive oversight on my part. I should definitely do better to confirm the books are actually translated. I have double confirmed all the other books are translated fiction. You've probably already heard me say this earlier on in the video, but I just wanted to reiterate. But I managed to finish Klara and the Sun today, and it's a weird one. It's also really insightful and so nuanced. Like, I remember reading Artists of a Floating World and just finding a lot of the things that Ishiguro was writing being very nuanced as well. And I think that he definitely does it very well in this novel. It is just so insightful to see Klara's perspective on the world and just to see how she interacts with everyone. I also find that the relationship between her and the sun is almost monotheistic in a way, how she praises the sun as like a deity. It feels very insightful to see an AI have a belief system. The sun does give her nourishment as she is a solar-powered AI. It's really intriguing. It's really intriguing. I just like the way that Ishiguro takes the genetic enhancement aspect and kind of applies it to this story, and the way that it has a good and a bad relationship with people. I also think that the fact that androids have also replaced the workforce is, in some aspects, is also really interesting because we get to see the positive and negative aspects of that. Ishiguro definitely makes a lot of really key points about us as a society at the moment, particularly towards classism, a little bit of capitalism, and also the way in which we process our emotions and also our grief in a way. It definitely gives you a lot to think about in terms of the way that this novel has been crafted. Just seeing like Klara interact with all these different characters and just seeing her learn and observe the world, it's just so magical, but also it does get a bit weird at points because you're kind of wondering what the hell is actually happening. The plot is subtly woven at first and then it becomes more apparent later on, and so you kind of have to like bear with it for the first like 100 to 150 pages whilst the plot is setting itself up. But I did really like it. I think that it's definitely a really, really good novel to read. I'm probably gonna give this 4 stars on Goodreads. There's just a lot. There's just so much nuance in this and I really enjoyed it. That is Klara and the Sun. I had a movie marathon last night with a few of my friends. We watched Jennifer's Body and Mean Girls back to back, and it was such like really cool as well to watch them both back to back and just like examine the different ways in which popular girl culture has been received. But yeah, now I'll be moving on to the first actual translated piece of fiction in this video, and that is The Mystery of Henri Pick by David Fokinos. This one basically follows a manuscript that Delphine comes across and decides that it'll be really popular, and so she decides to publish it. It becomes a worldwide sensation and people are really interested in finding out more about the author, who's Henri Pick, and we find that he's like this pizza chef, and so people are really questioning whether he's actually able to write this book, and so a journalist goes and investigates. great. And already I'm getting a lot of like classist vibes from this because it undermines the value of someone's intelligence and someone's nuance through their occupation. And I'm like, can you tell that nuance is becoming one of my new favorite words? I don't know why. I guess it's just like because I'm coming to the end of my degree, I'm just feeling the need to say all these English literature-y words. But I'm really interested because as well, it might also play into the death of the author theory, which is something I'm really, really intrigued by because we are also reading The Shadow of the Wind for the Late Night Book Club in April. And so that also kind of has similar vibes to this book. So I'd really love to like compare the two. The cover as well. This was designed by Nathan Burton. It's just so minimalist, but also it kind of sets you off knowing that this is kind of like a novel following an author or a writer, and it just captures it wonderfully. I just found out that Walter Presents with Pushkin Press did like this whole collaboration with bringing like international books into the English language, and it's just a really cool mission. And even on the back it says Walter Presents and then all of this, and it says made in France, category whodunit / mystery, contains Paris, intrigue and desire. And so I'm really intrigued by this, and I think it's gonna be really cool. So yeah, I'm gonna get to reading The Mystery of Henry Pick. I will get back with you and I'll give you all of my thoughts when I have finished, and we can have a little bit of a discussion as well. Hello besties and happy Wednesday. I had my Starbucks, it was another matcha, but I am now fully caffeinated and I'm ready to discuss The Mystery of Henry Pick by David Fokinos, which was interesting to say the least. I thought it was going to be a novel about the death of the author theory. However, whilst the author is actually dead in this, like Henry Pick is a dead man, that's not spoilery, it actually talks instead about intentional fallacy, and I think this whole book is a really good book to analyze about intentional fallacy. And intentional fallacy is a brand of new criticism that was developed by Wimslet and Beardsley, and it basically discusses the problems inherent with trying to judge a piece of art based on the author's life and trying to gather intention from that. And it basically places the author or the artist above their work, showing that they think that the author or the artist is more important than the actual book. This book is seeped with people trying to find out why Henry Pick wrote this book, and if Henry Pick wrote this book. It's definitely seeping in that intentional fallacy, because as the thing starts to blow up wider and wider, we can definitely see the mistakes in people trying to assume that Henry Pick is the author or assume someone else is the author, and it's definitely really interesting to see how everything plays out. However, I do have a few issues. One, there are a lot of characters in this book. This book is like under 300 pages, yet we meet, I think, like 14 characters in this book, and a lot of them have like their own mini character arcs throughout the story, and like while some of them do play out, a lot of them just don't. There's no payoff in this book. The only payoff that we do get is like finding out like if Henry Pick did or didn't write this book, and even then it was such a curveball near the end for how everything like unraveled that it just felt rushed. And like whilst it was shocking, it just again felt like it came out of nowhere. And also having one of your characters threaten an abortion if a certain character publishes a book, that doesn't sit right with me. But also this book reeks of the male gaze, the male fantasy, because a lot of these men, the way they interact with women was personally like a little bit uncomfortable for me. Again, it is a good novel for the intentional fallacy, but the other bits are a bit, a lot of it just failed for me as well, and I'm just sad about that. And so with The Mystery of Henry Pick being done, we're now going to move on to Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. And the cover design, which is stunning, was done by Anna Morrison, and the cover image was from Shutterstock. The tagline says, "If everyone was eating human meat, would you?" Now, I told this to Cersei, my friend, about this book. They immediately were like, yeah, I'm gonna get it, because, you know, Cannibalism. Okay, so in this book, one day a virus sweeps across the planet and all animals become infected, and suddenly their meat becomes poisonous for human consumption. And so the government decides to initiate the transition in which all human meat is now legal to eat. Some humans aren't seen as humans anymore, they're just seen as numbers, consignments, and specimens. And so Marcos, our main character, one day is given a specimen that's so rare and so amazing that he can't help but take up this offer, and so he chains her up in his barn and decides that he'll dispose of her later. I'm really excited by it because it seems like he's going to be tortured by what has been lost, but also what could be saved, as it's said by the synopsis. And I'm just really intrigued because I don't think I've read a story about cannibalism before. Yeah, I'm really intrigued by the premise of Tender as the Flesh. It is a really short book as well. It's like just over 200 pages, so I'm hoping to get through it fairly quickly. But yeah, I have nothing more to say about this. I'm gonna get to reading and then I'll catch up with you once I finish Tender as the Flesh. So yeah, I just finished Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. It was an insightful read into cannibalism and the way that cannibalism could potentially be normalized in a society if animal meat was plagued by a virus. It's interesting. Definitely some scenes were graphic and nitty-gritty. Like there's this one scene where a bunch of teenagers attack a group of puppies. It's saddening. We also get to see the process in which humans are processed for consumption. We get to see the way that they are potentially also experimented on. The writing was also really good. We got to see Marcos's perspective and the way that he begins to question things about the society as a whole and the way that he actively participates in perpetuating cannibalism in the society. It has a little bit of a plot, but like it's more so you just following Marcos through his life and things that are happening to him. And he does make one or two active decisions that do change the course of the novel, influenced by the woman Jasmine that he has in his barn. And it's definitely a strange novel. It's definitely a weird novel. The ending also was really, really well done. It was a twist, like kind of like the Henry Pick twist, but it was delivered much better. It kind of shows the main character's resignation. That's all I'm gonna say. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's like a really nice, like thrillery book. It kind of unsettles you in the way that it's kind of realistic in the way that something like this could happen. It's the way it's going to go. And this is my first ever like book about a cannibal. It's just weird. But yeah, I also think Tender as the Flesh did really well in showcasing the desolation and the desperation felt by each of these characters and the way that every character has a different reaction to the society. We have some people that delight and revel in attacking other humans. We have some that recoil. Yeah, it was definitely a really interesting read. I don't think I'd ever be a cannibal, but that's just me. That's just me. Okay, so the next book I'm going to read is Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. This one has been recommended to me a lot by people who wanted me to read translated fiction. I don't really know much about what this novel is about. All I know is that Philippe doesn't believe someone like Caio could ever fall for someone like him. But over the next 15 days, everything will change. And I think there's also fat rap in this book, which is really exciting to see. And like the cover is just so cute as well. The cover and interior illustrations were done by Samuel Perret. I'm really excited to read it. I think it's going to be like a really cute gay romance. I am really looking forward to it as well because it's literally like just under 300 pages. I have a panel tonight with the Society of Young Publishers talking about bookish social media, and that is in 25 minutes. So I think I'm going to do the panel, then I'm going to get stuck in with Here the Whole Time. Then I'm having a really nice like call tonight with some friends, like catching up and just talking about random shit. So yeah, I'm gonna get to doing my stuff and I'll catch up with you once I've finished Here the Whole Time. Hey besties and happy Friday. Quick note, when I got my Starbucks this morning, my mum felt the need to check the bag that I had my Starbucks delivered in, just in case I got any meat inside of the Starbucks bag, because of course it's Good Friday today. And although my mum isn't religious, she somehow takes this no eating meat on Good Friday thing really seriously. I don't know, she's doing the Lord's work. So today I finished Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. I'm just gonna say now, you need to read this book. You need to read this book if you just want good feelings, such good like confidence in yourself, and just, it's such a good book. Like, it's such a good coming of age book for anyone. It perfectly depicts the feelings of like not feeling like you're pretty enough or feeling like you're the best or unworthy of love. And this just makes you feel so good about yourself and so good about these characters and the struggles that they go through. And I don't know, I just felt myself laughing, getting emotional, almost crying at some stages. And it's just such a beautiful book. The way that Vitor Martins writes is amazing. Just everyone being unapologetically themselves, but also learning to come to terms with the struggles that comes with being another person. Like, Philippe thinks like Kyle and Becky and Melissa have like everything figured out in their lives and they're so beautiful and amazing, but then he learns about their struggles as well, and he is not the only person that has it, like his own internal struggles, and it kind of makes him feel better. And I think especially with how open he is about going to therapy, and it's just amazing. And I love like the normalization of like going to a therapist in this. There's so many good things about this book that I could go on and on about, and just like the voices in this book. It's definitely a new favorite book of mine, and one that I will return to reread and recommend, because it's just so good. Did I spend all day in bed reading this? Yes, because one, I don't have much else to do today, because I basically decided not to do any work because I'm tired of working. This is basically the only room in my house which I can record in because it has the best light. Overall, put this on your TBR, go and read it, and this gets my seal of approval because I love it. I love it so much. And then we move on to the final book of this video, which is the Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. It's funny actually, because we started with a book by like a Japanese author, and now we're finishing with a book by a Japanese author, although the first one was not translated, and now this one is translated, so it's coming full circle, and I love that. This basically follows Nana, who's going on a road trip with his master Satoru, and he won't say why or like where he's going. All that he said is that he's going to visit 3 of his old friends. And so Nana, I think along the way, experiences a lot of things with his master, and I don't know, it just seems so cute that like a cat and his master are going on a journey, and I don't know, it's just really cute. And like, I think we're gonna be reading from the perspective of a cat as well, which is, it intrigues me, it does intrigue me, so I'm really excited to read this. I have 2 dogs, Peaches and Pebbles, and they're really cute and really adorable, but I don't know, I think one day I would love to own a cat, because I just think cats are just, they're mysterious, but also it'd have to be a black cat. Anything else exciting that's been going on, just really excited to be finished with university, but then comes the existential crisis of what happens next. I feel like it's gonna be a really weird period of growth for me, and I'm both excited and nervous for that, but at the same time I'm making a whole bunch of new friends. I feel like I'm getting that main character energy. But yeah, I'm gonna get to reading the Traveling Cat Chronicles, I'm gonna get to vibing with it, and yeah, I'll catch up with you once I've finished, and that should hopefully be tomorrow. So 5 books in 6 days, I think that's a really good thing. But yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. Hello besties and happy Saturday. I finished The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. This was such a beautiful read, like reading from a perspective of a cat. I didn't think I would enjoy it so much, but the cat is so witty, humorous. Like, just the remarks that he makes throughout the novel is just amazing, and like seeing the perspectives of all these different characters' lives and kind of how Satoru has affected them, it's amazing. And then the ending crushed me. It took my heart, tore into 1,000 pieces, and then like it's just so bittersweet, and like oh my god, read it. And I'm definitely interested in more of Hiro Arikawa's work. I think just the way that she writes is amazing, and I think that like it's just so poetic in a way. I just found like the relationships that Satoru had with each of the people that we visit to be so like well developed and also nuanced in a way that like I kind of did shit Satoru with one of them, although I know that they're both straight. The whole thing with like his family and like the way Satoru is emotionally impacted by the fact that everyone close to him has basically died via a car crash. It's strange, but like it's also one of those things where you're like, oh, that hit me. But yeah, I really loved it, and again, I'm gonna give this probably 4 stars because I did enjoy it quite a lot. The cat is so cute. The cat is adorable. But yeah, that literally wraps up everything. Those are like the 5 mostly translated fiction novels that I read this week. Klara and the Sun, again, is not translated fiction, but I did still really enjoy reading it. And I realized something as I was reading these novels. Like, I do like to point out like cover illustrations and stuff and like talk about translated fiction. However, I think whilst we acknowledge the authors who wrote amazing stories, we should also acknowledge the translators who took their time and effort to translate the beautiful words of these authors to make these stories more accessible to a wide audience. And so I'm going to quickly go through and read out each of the translators' names so that we can also thank them. So The Traveling Cat Chronicles was translated by Philip Gabriel. Here the Whole Time was translated by Larissa Helena. Tender is the Flesh was translated by Sarah Moses. And finally, The Mystery of Henry Pick was translated by Sam Taylor. And so I thank all of you for taking your time and effort to translate these amazing books. And it was really great to read translated fiction because I definitely think there's a lot more literature in the world than the ones that have just mainly been published in English. And I think it's also, like, for me, who's like a literature buff, it's a disservice just to ignore translated fiction because we really do need to appreciate the massive amount of literature that there is in the world. I'm definitely interested in reading more translated fiction. I think I've got a few that a bunch of you have recommended me, but if you did have any more recommendations, be sure to leave them down in the comment section down below. That is everything. And again, a massive thank you to Audible for sponsoring today's video. You can check them out by going to visit audible.com/fictional fates or texting fictional fates to 500 500 where you can get a 30-day free trial. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I upload next. This week's shout out fates goes out to Seji from the Artisan Geek, who basically inspired me to go on this translated fiction journey, and so I'll leave their channel in the description down below. They talk about translated fiction and a bunch of other really cool topics as well, so I'd highly recommend you go check them out. If you want to check me out on any other social media platforms, I'll have all of them linked down below for you, so you can go follow me there. I especially recommend you go follow me on Goodreads because that's where you get all of the reviews first. I'm really excited about because the books for my next video arrived today, and I'm gonna give you like a little sneak peek, but I am really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this video has to offer. So yeah, I guess until the next time, bye besties.